Hello, and welcome to Read Scholars Live. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Fleming, and current president of Read Scholars. Today, I am joined by Dr. Eric Peters, who is one of my classmates from Xavier and a pharmacist in New Orleans. Hi, Eric. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm a little bit tired today, but I'm doing well. We had a long day yesterday, giving COVID shots in addition to kind of like keeping the workflow of the day-to-day operation going as well. So a little tired today, but I'm not complaining. I'm here and I'm alive and I'm well. So and I'm ready to go.
Indeed. I mean, this year, last year, we just have to be happy to be here some days, right? Um, so
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I was interested in learning a little bit about your journey. So, I think we talk a lot about health equity on this podcast, and we know that pharmacists have always been an integral part of the community, right? They are sometimes the medical professional that some parts of the community see the most, right? Because you got to pick up your prescriptions once a month, and you might not see everybody else in your medical family, if you will, that frequently. And so we know that because of that, you're very much a trusted member of the community and help kind of bridge that gap between medical care when some people can't access it in the traditional pathway. So I wanted to start by just asking you, why did you decide to do pharmacy, and kind of take us through your journey to, where you are now with owning your own pharmacy.
Yeah, okay. So I may be telling my age a little bit, but growing up, I kind of watched the Cosby Show, and I always admired, um, the having the title doctor, right? Like seeing a African American male that walk around with the title doctor felt pretty prestigious. So, kind of made up my mind at a very young age that that was something that I aspired to do. And upon doing my research, at the time, I really didn't like blood or having to deal with blood or anything like that. So I kind of like came up with either pharmacy or going to optometry school to obtain the title doctor, still be in a healthcare profession, but not necessarily have to deal with blood or anything of that nature. But at the same time, I actually fell in love with the idea of this being from New Orleans, Xavier is so entered in the healthcare setting that we have a good bit of African Americans in the community, to the point that I saw a lot of good role models after I made my decision that that would be one of my options, that I decided to pursue that journey. And I decided to attend Xavier, not by choice, to be honest with you, because I had initially wanted in
Or
LS. Okay. Yeah, not I attended Xavier, but not necessarily by choice, because I originally wanted to go to LSU for undergrad and try to transfer to Xavier for pharmacy school.
mm,
Um, and some of the elders in the church that my mom was attending, who worked at Xavier, thought that that probably would be detrimental to my career path. And sat down and talked to me and talked to my parents, and my parents kind of did a little persuasion thing that lured me into going to Xavier for undergrad as well. And I can honestly say I think that was probably one of the best decisions of my life. So that was guided. That decision was guided by my parents. And since then, I think that that road has led me to where I am today, and I'm very proud of where I am today. So I'm definitely happy that that's the path that it took. But yeah, that's how I started. I kind of wanted to obtain a title doctor, and did some research with my guidance counselors at school, et cetera, to see how I can accomplish that, um, and use some of my strengths of math and science without actually having to see a whole bunch of blood. So,
and so for those listening who don't know, so Xavier, of course, is in Louisiana and in New Orleans, and we are known for a lot for putting African Americans into medical school, but we're also known for having one of the top pharmacy schools in the country. So, as Eric just talked about, going to Xavier for undergrad and then transitioning over to pharmacy school was, couldn't do anything but help him in his career pathway. And that was kind of kind of where we took our natural break. So a lot of us started together, and then the pharmacy students stayed on, for a couple extra years and finished pharmacy school. And those of us who went to medical school or dental school or graduate school or on to work, just kind of graduated and went on, but we're still kind of connected through those early years. So, and as you all can tell, probably by now, through Eric's accent, that he is a Louisiana native. So tell us what made you stay in New Orleans, and because it's, you could have had the option of going anywhere in the country that you wanted to. What made you stay there?
I don't know what you're referring to with the accent. I don't know about that. But no, so I'm born and raised in New Orleans. And after school, I ventured out to the Baton Rouge area. And I worked out in this area for a while. But still consider New Orleans to be home, which now I reside in both. I have a residence in Baton Rouge and a residence in New Orleans. And I go back and forth half time in both places because I have stores in both locations now. But New Orleans will always be home to me. No matter where the road take me is kind of rooted in me. So I always would probably venture back to New Orleans at some point, even if I did leave, but never really leaving the area. It just kind of was chance and how life unfolded at the time. My wife was finishing up from LSU, so it's just kind of beneficial for me to stay around at the time. And now kids are rooted in school, the business is here, so it's for me to be here currently. But you never know where the road leads for along the lines.
Indeed. So you mentioned you had two stores, and that's a big jump to go from being an employee to an employer. So tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to open your own stores and why you decided the locations that you chose.
All right, so we have 9 locations.
Ooh,
So
9.
we have,
I'm
yes, ma'am, we
behind.
have
You
9
got
locations.
got
So
ahead of
yeah,
me.
yeah. So back in I want to say it was 2013. I'm going into 2014. Steve Charbonnet, another one of our classmates, which is also my business partner, was thinking about leaping out and opening up his own. And we kind of started talking about it. He introduced me to a couple of people that he knew that was doing this. I was working for Independent and for Walgreens at the time. And I was like, you know what? I think I may do it too. So I went home at the time and told my ex-wife that was pregnant with our first child that I was thinking about quitting my jobs. She probably looked at me like I was crazy, but she didn't deter me from that career path. So I ventured off, and I started doing a whole lot of soul searching, a whole lot of praying, and found that this was my path. I felt like this was the direction that God was leading me in. So I took a leap of faith and executed that plan. And I can tell you, in the very beginning, it was very rough with my very first store trying to open up. Everybody basically was telling me no, right? A bank would take all my information, lead me on for 2 to 3 months, then get to the end of the road and tell me no. That's happened about 3 times. And I found one bank that Steve was using for his store. And sure enough, they told me yes. And I swear it was like at the dawn's hour when I felt like every penny that I had, my entire retirement was exhausted. And I had nothing else to give. And I was nowhere near even getting the store completely open, but I never gave up faith, kept pushing. And I felt like God didn't take me this far to leave me. So things changed at that moment. Everything opened up. My loan was approved. I was able to finish building my store. I was able to get my store open. And I probably had just enough money to pay myself for maybe a year or two, given, a pay cut, of course, and paid a young lady that left with me from Walgreens as my technician. And that would have been a blessing in itself, but I would go to work, and when we first opened, I would pray, God, let me see 10 prescriptions, and I get 10, I get 12, The next day, I may not pray. And on my way to work, and I get in here and I do not a person walk through that door.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next day I would pray and I would get 15. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. I get it, So it made me become a little bit more rooted in my faith. And it made me realize that the purpose was greater to me and greater than my success. I had to open my eyes and realize that I was doing a greater good for the community. Right. So I got to a point that I realized as an owner, you don't make money off of every transaction, especially in the pharmacy world. I mean, maybe 10% of the prescriptions that we actually fill, we're probably taking a loss on. Like the insurance companies are actually paying us less money than we're actually purchasing the medication for, which is bananas to even think of something like that. But it actually does happen. But like I said, being deeply rooted in my faith, it came to me that if I take care of people, the finances would take care of themselves, right? And that was almost 7 years ago. That was in 2014, September of 2014. So about 6.5 years ago was this journey. And now here we are 6.5 years later. We're at 100%, I own 50/50. And two, we actually don't own, but we manage and operate. We have a consultant agreement in place with those two particular facilities, which are inside of clinics. So this journey has taken me so much further than I could have ever imagined 6.5 years ago when I took a leap of faith and trusted God. And it's almost like it's a testament because a lot of times people don't realize that his plan is so much bigger than yours. His timing is so much better than yours, but you have to have that mustard seed faith to make sure that you even get to the point of seeing the full tuition of what his glory is.
That is an awesome testimony. And I think it's hard for a lot of us when you do that first step out on faith and hope for the best and not quite knowing what the future holds, but, staying mission driven and staying clear on your path on why you're doing something will get you there. So thank you for sharing that part of your journey with us. And, kind of thinking, as you're talking about the greater good and the broader community. And when we think about New Orleans in the last 15 years or so, it's just a community that has been hard hit with a lot of trauma and tragedy on a day-to-day basis. It's one of those cities that I love with all my heart, but it breaks my heart every time I come with some of the things that continue to happen there because of the infrastructure of the city and the community. And we kind of see, when we talk again, going back to health equity, and we talked a lot about COVID-19 and the cities that were the hardest hit. And then we talked about, as the COVID-19 vaccine started to be rolled out and getting communities that have typically been disenfranchised to understand the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine, but also have access to it and have it to be available. And so I know that you were part of that distribution process in New Orleans. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that, why you thought it was important, and that type of thing.
Well, in the state of Louisiana, they roll out the vaccine to the medical centers and the population, I think, didn't go as smoothly as they had originally intended. So they thought people would have better access by being able to go to their community pharmacies to acquire the immunization. So we enrolled all our stores, right? We have 2 in New Orleans, 2 in Gonzales, 1 in Prairieville, 2 in Baton Rouge, 1 in Zachary, 1 in Opelousas, Louisiana. So we enrolled all the stores. I want to say in the beginning, maybe 6 of the stores was led into the program, but we only received vaccine at 1 of the stores the very first month. And that one was in Gonzales. Following Gonzales, a couple of other stores that got 4 stores and vaccine. And doing a pretty good job. We allowed on the extra payroll to get these vaccines. In the very beginning too, like most of the insurances wasn't even covering like an administration fee. So it's basically doing this as a service to the community.
Right.
And we did a pretty good job as far as rolling out the vaccine within the stores, to the point that we got contacted from LDH, which is Louisiana Department of Health, and said that they were trying to get the vaccine more accessible into minority communities. And they needed some faces that look like those minorities to basically educate these people, to let them know that the vaccine that we're giving is the same regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your population or your financial status. And none of those things change the vaccine whatsoever. It's the exact same dosages that we're giving to everyone, right? And they felt like they would take it better from me than from a state official or a politician or so forth or so on. So they had the pharmacy start to partner with community churches, because that's what people trust. They trust their pharmacy and they trust their pastors, right?
Yeah.
So we did this church rollout where a few weeks ago they did one in Baton Rouge with Albertsons, with some big churches. And then they did one with Lagniappe Pharmacy in Gonzales. The one in Gonzales went so well, we administered 312 doses to underserved community in a matter of about 4 hours, to the point that they said that they wanted to do bigger events. So the weekend after next, we have a large one in Donaldsonville where we're aiming to do in between 500 to 600 doses. Then the following weekend, we have one in New Orleans where we're going to have available 1,000 doses
Oh, wow.
to administer. And we're going to do all this in one day, so I'm going to be heavily staffed. We'll be out there with about probably in between 10 to 12 pharmacists. And I'll probably have a good amount of supporting staff as well. And we're going to get immunity and get as many people as we can vaccinated, so that we can possibly acquire herd immunity. And it's important that everybody understand that this vaccine is not just for you. It's not just protecting you. It's protecting our entire existence as we know it today.
Indeed. We've talked a lot about, and still people are hesitant, and I understand why. It's vaccines have been a point of contention, way before the COVID-19 vaccine came into existence. And it's hard to trust something new, but I'm hoping the more that we talk to people and hopefully they trust us, and, we've gotten it, and that they'll trust the vaccine so that we can, protect each other and try to get back to somewhat of a normal existence in the near future.
Right. And especially in the African American community.
Yeah.
I think history being used as test dummies in a sense, then I can definitely understand hesitancy. But I also get to understand the difference in the situation as well, right? When we go back to thinking about some of the STD type tests that they were running that we're very familiar with, that's a whole different animal than what we're dealing with right now. This is a pandemic that's going on across the globe. Right. It's not just here, it's not just in minority communities, it's across the globe. So we really have to understand that this is a different situation. And we also have to understand the difference in perspective of the positions that we are in and the decisions that we are helping to make today versus what we did back in the day. So hopefully, we could get that education out and people can get a little bit more comfortable with getting vaccinated, because I think it's important for as many of us to do so as we can.
I definitely agree. It is very different, and we have hopefully more opportunity to make a change. So I know this is a busy work day for you and you're already tired, so I don't want to keep you too long. So just kind of as we close out, tell us what's in store for you and your family. What are you looking forward to when we hopefully get on the other side of this?
Yeah, so as far as on a business tip, we are planning to expand to another 4 to possibly 5 facilities in 2021, which will put us at 13 to 14 pharmacies across the state. We are entertaining families in other states like Texas, but right now it's merely a conversation. Steve and I both love the fact that we can literally get to any store at the drop of a dime within, 2 to 2.5 hours, no matter what
Yeah.
store we're at, we can get to, any store within that time span. Most of them are really within an hour span that we
Wow.
can get from one store to another. So we like that. And we're thinking about keeping it grassroots and staying home within here in Louisiana. But we are still looking to grow some. Now, after 2021, we may put a cap on the growth. Just depends on how thin we're stretching ourselves,
Yeah.
or how big we can grow the internal organization to where it's not falling completely on Steve and I.
Right.
But that's where we are career wise. Personally, it's me and my two babies. So I spoiled them to death. I have a little boy that just made 7, and I have a little girl that I'll be making 6 in June. They're about 15 months apart, and they're probably as close as they can possibly be.
And as cute as they can
And
be.
as of right now, man,
Cute.
oh, thank you, appreciate that. But yeah, as of right now, I'm cool with that being family. I'm so focused and so driven right now that I pretty much put all my focus on the kids, and then everything with COVID and stuff like that. It makes it
Yeah.
hard right now to even date or consider dating and so forth, so on. So just kind of focused on the kids right now, focused on the business, and I'm happy being
Yeah.
just simple that.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And we we talk a lot on this show, and I've had classmates and friends on here, and I'm just proud of you. I'm proud of everything that you've done. I'm inspired by your entrepreneurial spirit and staying rooted in the community, and doing something that is true to your heart, but also serves the greater good. So thank you for being you, and thank you for stepping out there on faith, and thank you for sharing your story with Read Scholars today. Thank you for listening to Read Scholars Live. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel.